today I'm going to change my brakes on my 2004 F150. I'm going to go ahead and block off our tires, put it on a stable, flat surface. Be safe. I'm going to use my little stands to make sure I'm secure. That's your first priority. So to complete this project today, I'm going to use jack stand, screwdriver, hammer. May not need it. CQs, metallics. You need a jack stand. A pair of pliers. May not need them. Some brake cleaner. C-clamp. I'm using Wagner brakes. I've used them for a while. I haven't had any problems with them. So I'm using the Wagner. I use a Riley's brake cleaner. Works just fine. And knee pad. I mean, you may not need that either, but I'm getting old. My knees, don't work like they used to. So I'll use that to kind of help my knees out. And that's about it. Nothing major. Oh, I'm sorry. You will need a. I just use a breaker bar with the 10mm socket to loosen your bolts. So, and that's the only major tool. And as you see, I'm going to go ahead and set the emergency brake real quick, and I'm going to loosen up each of these just a little bit. Just loosen them up while it's on the ground, and then I'm going to jack it up, and then I'm going to unloosen them the rest of the way. Okay, so I'm ready to get this wheel off. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I actually just use some brake cleaner just to clean up a little bit. Get, you don't want brake dust all over you. That's not normally a good thing. So just use a little brake cleaner, cleaned it up. So now I've already loosened these two bolts here. There's this one here and this one here. Just loosen those. I use a 10mm socket. So just loosen them up. Pop them out. I already loosened that one up. Pop that out. And then I took a C-clamp just to kind of release some of the pressure on the brakes. And I just basically a little bit here. You don't want to get too rough with them because you don't want to break anything, but just do your little C-clamp and just kind of push this in a little bit just to give it a little bit of release. There, but just pop right up. And as you can see, I'm going to lift that up, and then I'm going to turn it over because I don't want anything on my line. I don't want any pressure on my lines here. So I'm going to lift it up, set it on right there. So the next two things I'm going to do, I'm going to get in here and lift this up, so lift these out. Then I'm going to use my C-clamp again, and I'm going to pressure to seat this cylinder back. So I'll put my C-clamp in here, C-clamp, and then just kind of easily pressure it back, and also go monitor your reservoir, make sure it ain't spilling over. But just kind of slowly but surely push that back with the C-clamp, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to pop these two things off. These come in your kit. Just pop these off, and I think they're like some little sealant or whatever. So as as you can see, I'm using a C-clamp to seat the piston back in the bore. Before I took the pad off, I used that so I don't have to mess up anything on the piston. So just kind of be careful, you know, and break nothing. So I have my little C-clamp back here. Just kind of put it on the brake pad and just do a slow tightening of it. You don't get too carried away. You don't want to bust anything or cause any leaks. So just slowly pushing in. You'll see how the piston seats back in the bore right behind the pad. When I take that pad off, it'll be seated and ready for the new pad to come on. So as you can see, I got the piston bore set back in the bore, so it's far enough back to where when I put the pads on, I won't have to, you know, I have enough room to get it on the rotor. So seated all the way back. It was way out to here because I'd used up quite a load of pad there. So yeah, make sure you seat it. These little digs here, make sure you push them all the way back. You can hand push them, but you're gonna have to push them back in, you know, some more when you get ready to put your pad on. Otherwise, they'll get in the way and get hung up on these back ends here, and won't let you put it on there. You know, struggling to get it on there. Just see where I'll put this. After I've done that, I'll put this one in here. These are seat down in these little divots right there. Just a little bit of pressure. A little bit of pressure, and these are squished down in there in the seat. So as you can see, I got my brake pads in. I've got my sliders in, these two little things here. This top and bottom. Little silver things. Just pop them out with a screwdriver, pop them back in. Okay, so now I have my brakes on. I have them seated. See, I've got them seated back in here. Springs up. Got my sliders on. Both the sliders back on. Then we've got it rested right here. And make sure that's seated there. You should just be able to push it in with a little bit of pressure here, get over this spring, and it should seat back. And making sure, I already made sure these little things here slide easily. These little brushes here, looks like they're sealed, so that keeps the oil in there. That, you know, as long as they slide back freely. Check that. So let me push this in here, and we should be good to go. I'll bolt them back down and go from there. So, but you can see I could have gotten these turned. Again, I might have to do that today. I don't have the time right now. I just need to make sure my brakes is working good. But okay, so one other thing I want to show you, but otherwise it will get hung up and won't let you get these back on your little slider here. So just be cautious of this little boot back there. You want to make sure it's seated all the way back as much as possible. So if you push it back, see it's going to move forward on you again, so just be conscious of it. Otherwise it'll get hooked on that little piece back there. So as you can see, that boot, make sure that's not getting hung up on this piece back here when you're putting your brakes back on, because it will get caught behind there and then it won't let you get it fully on there. But you can see I pulled it back, and the top one's not as much of a problem, but you can see they will push and they will get hung up back there, and you won't be able to seat this. So once I got that seated, just kind of can tap it or use a rubber mallet or whatever, get this seated down there, and then you're just gonna I'll loop up my my little deals here. So we're gonna slide these back in here and get those seated. slide your screws on there and tighten it up, and you should be good to go. I'll do the other side, and then I'll go from there. So once you get these two back in there, I'll go check my reservoir before I start on the other side, make sure I'm not pushing all out, and just kind of go from there. So not too bad of a job. I mean, these are, it's not that difficult, but if you don't know what you're doing, take it to a mechanic and let them deal with it for you. But again, my main thing is just being secure. Make sure you got that stuff jacked up. Make sure you got a double jack. Make sure you got your wheels blocked up so you don't have no accidents. That way you don't have a long day. Alright, so I got everything back on. I got my screws tightened down. Probably should use a torque, but I've done it enough. I don't. I mean, you can if you want. You don't want to over tighten them, under tighten them. So now that I got everything nice and tight, snug like a bug, got down my brakes on, got the tires both on, got them all tightened up. Check to make sure I got put my cap back on the oil reservoir, make sure that's nice and tight. I'm gonna go ahead and start it up, and then I'm just gonna tap on the brakes, just kind of light, let go, tap again, let it go. Tap maybe 2 or 3 times. You feel that it's hard. I mean, if it goes all the way down to the floor, you got a problem. So everything seems like it's firm, nice and tight. And also check, release your brake, and I always check just to make sure that brake light goes off. If that brake light don't go off, then again you may still have a problem. But everything's good. And so now I'm gonna just take it for a little test drive. Everything's all good. Like I said, brakes nice and firm. Take it for a test drive, a little slow. I mean, you'll know if there's a problem or not. But like I said, if you don't feel comfortable doing this job, if you don't have no wrench skills whatsoever, I mean, don't follow my advice. You can just take it to a mechanic and pay them to do it. That's what they get paid for.